So lesson 5, word problems, and some of those will have fractions in them that we're working with. So we have to look for our keywords in there, and you guys have done this before, maybe not for a little bit. Sum, so I know I'm going to have 2 things that I'm adding, or more. The things that I'm adding are -4, and, so there's one of the things I'm adding, and now my other thing that I'm adding is the 5 times the number. So whatever we want the number to be, x, n, it doesn't matter, your choice. I think I'll do n. So there is my sum of -4 and 5 times the number. But then it says that sum is multiplied by 3. Not 5n is multiplied by 3, but the answer to that is multiplied by 3. So I had to put parentheses around that and say I multiply that whole answer times 3. And that gets us as far as the is multiplied by 3, the end of the first sentence. That result is 212 less than something. So I'm going to take something and take 212 away from it. So I'm going to have something and take away 212. It is 212 less than 7 times the number, so 7n. Thumbs up if that setup makes sense. All right, finish it. Distribute, combine like terms. Let's see what we can come up with for our number. Fast. Let's let everybody have a chance to get to the end before we check it out. Go ahead and put my next line in here, though, make sure we get the distributing right. And everybody, shout out, what's your final answer for the number?
-25.
I love it. I'm hearing lots of -25s. Let's see if I can get the same thing. I distributed -12 plus 15n. So then I want to get all the n's on one side. So if I subtract 7n on both sides, I have 8n. Get the -12 on the other side. So I'm adding the 12. So I have negative, what is that, 200? And if I divide both of those by 8, negative divided by a positive does give me a negative, and that would come out to be 25. So -25. So great job with that. Next one. The number of ducks on the pond was doubled when the new flock landed. Then 7 more ducks came. The resulting number was 13 less than 3 times the original. Okay, got a lot of stuff going on there. But I'd like to look at that last sentence. Where did I have to find? I need to find how many ducks were on that pond to begin with. So this is what I need to find. So I am going to let that be D for my variable for ducks. Then I'm going to go back and start trying to figure out what's going on. So the number of ducks, I just said that's going to be my D. And that was doubled. What do I do when I double something, everybody? Times 2. So 2D. So the number of ducks on the pond was doubled. So that was 2D. Then 7 more came. So if more come, what do I need to do? Add 7. Okay, so that's how many I have at the end of sentence 2, right? We doubled it and then we added 7. That resulting number, okay, my answer right there was 13 less than something. So I'm going to have something and take 13 away from it. So something, I'm going to take 13 away. And then I have in there my 3 times the original number. So what do I put for 3 times my original number? So 3D. Okay, finish solving and label your answer. Get your D's on one side, your numbers on the other side. Shouldn't take real long. Austin, what'd you get?
20 ducks.
Anybody else? 20 ducks? Give me a thumbs up. Something different, thumbs down. 20 ducks sounds pretty good then, since I see so many hands up in the air. Let's see if I can get that also. Subtract 2D from both sides, and I have 1D over here on the right. Add 13 on both sides, and I also get 20, and we label it as ducks, since it is a word problem, and word problems should always be labeled. Easy enough. Okay, another one. Oops, hit the wrong arrow. Okay, this is where we get into fractions, and this starts getting kind of confusing here. And there are going to be a couple of ways that we could set this up, and I want you to decide which one you think is easiest. So first I'm going to read it, because some fraction problems I just go ahead and write an equation on. 3/8 of the pieces unloaded were Victorian. That means from kind of time period in history, a particular style. If 1,624 pieces were unloaded, how many were not Victorian? So what I've got going on here is I have some that are Victorian and some that are not Victorian. So what that suggests to me is that I might want to do a ratio box. So if I do that, I'm going to have my Victorians and my non-Victorians and my total. And this says 3/8 were Victorian. So what fraction was not Victorian? Everybody.
5/8.
And if I add those together, what number do I have? 1. So those are my fractions. Could also have it in percent. Some of them will say 24%. And then you have to figure out that the other percent would be 76%. But same idea, just a different way of writing the fractions. Okay, then I'm going to do my actual numbers. And it tells me 1,624 were unloaded. Was that Victorian, not Victorian, or total? Everybody, what do you think?
Total.
Total, so I need to put my 1,624 here. What do I need to find, everybody? Not Victorian, so the one I need to find, I put my letter beside that. Now I don't need the top row, that was just so I could figure out the 5/8 in there. Now I am going to set up my fraction, so it is okay to just look at it right here. 5/8 over 1 is x over 1624. And then next write down your cross product. And so 1 times x is x. And then we have 5 times 8 times 1624. Be sure you remember that's a 1624 over 1. And you can do that by hand, or you can punch that in on the calculator. I'm going to punch it in on the calculator because it looks pretty easy to divide by 8. Because 8 goes into 16 twice. 8 does not go into the 2. And how many times does 8 go into 24?
3.
And then that looks pretty easy too. What is 5 times 203? 1,015. And then we need to label non-Victorian pieces. Yep. You don't like them, or you do like them?
I don't like it. They take like too much time.
Not really. They help you keep it straight. It's way better, I think, than getting it wrong because you don't set it up right. The other way that you could set it up, Victorian and not Victorian and total. I'm going to think of, if I'm talking about 3/8, I'm talking about 3 out of 8, which leaves 5 for right here. Still want to get the non-Victorian. Total is still 1624. And if you'd rather set it up this way, you will get exactly the same thing. Because if you set those equal, you have 8x equals 5 times 1624. Don't multiply anything yet. We know we want 8 by itself, or x by itself. Divide by 8, so we have x equals 5 times 1624 divided by 8. You could punch that in the calculator all at once, and you'd get exactly the same answer.
I feel like the ratio box is most useful when you're dealing with fractions inside of fractions.
It can help with that, but I really like to see it at the Algebra 2 level on most of these problems. Most students mess up somewhere or another in there. You may be the exception, but most students make mistakes if they don't use the ratio boxes. They start getting the wrong numbers in there somewhere.
Answer me my expert question.
All right, let's then, anybody with questions on those? Tell you what, just on your papers, do this one real fast, and then we'll try to get some of those old formulas in and check the homework stuff. So, write this down on your paper and see what you can come up with for that. Let's see if we can set that up right and be getting the correct answer.